The earth was quiet the night the sky turned red. People in every city stopped and looked up. At first, they thought it was an aurora, but the red glow didn't dance. It pulsed. Then came the humming, deep, constant. It made buildings tremble and dogs howl. Satellites failed silently in orbit. Then the military blacked out communication grids across half the planet. No one knew who came first, the soldiers or the machines. But when the first ships pierced the clouds, humanity understood one thing. This wasn't a message. It was a warning. Lasers cut across the sky like slicing paper. Cities lost power in minutes. Tanks rolled into streets but melted under white-hot plasma. Human jets were swatted from the air as if they were made of paper. Someone tried nukes. The warheads vanished mid-flight. Then came the silence, not peace. Just silence. She stood atop the tallest tower in Geneva. Her eyes scanned the horizon as her army secured the city. Tall warriors in glimmering blue armor moved with perfect precision. They made no sound. Their leader did not raise a weapon. She didn't need to. The world had already bent under her gaze. Her armor shimmered red and black under the sun. Every plate looked hand-forged, alien, ancient. Her crown was made of sharp, angular crystals. It floated above her head as if drawn by gravity that belonged only to her. Her skin was pale, almost glowing. Her eyes, bright silver, held no hatred. Only calculation. World leaders begged for negotiation. Missiles were still ready. But deep down they knew. They had already lost. Earth's armies had been turned to ash within hours. Only scattered pockets resisted, and even those were vanishing. One question echoed everywhere. Why hadn't she finished the job? President Adira of the North Union was one of the last to speak with her. Inside a sealed bunker, she demanded answers. If you're here to take our planet, why are we still breathing? The Queen's voice was smooth, yet it felt like it echoed inside the mind. I do not want your planet. I want your alliance. And for that I want your strongest human to marry me. The bunker went dead silent. Even the AI stopped processing. The advisors looked at one another. Some thought it was a mistranslation. Others waited for the real threat. But her words were not repeated. They stood clear, sharp, impossible to ignore. Adira leaned forward, confused. You want peace through marriage? The Queen didn't blink. Our laws demand union through blood, not conquest. I chose Earth. I chose a human. Refuse, and your species will become memory. No one spoke for a long time. Then came the question who would marry her. Volunteers were not lining up. Most thought it was a trap. Others were terrified. But one man standing in the back stepped forward. He wasn't a general, not even a soldier. He was a mechanic. A translator. A nobody. His name was Callan Ward. And in that moment, his life became something else. The Queen's head tilted slightly when she saw him. Her lips curved, not in a smile, but something colder, approving. You're the one who fixed our ship during the first encounter. You touched alien steel before we declared war. You're the one I want. Adira stared at him. Do you even understand what this means? Callan nodded slowly. He didn't look scared, just quiet. I understand peace is worth more than pride. If marrying her ends this, then I'll do it. The next day, Earth watched as their unlikely champion stepped onto a platform surrounded by alien guards. The Queen stood beside him, taller, deadlier. Her armor gleamed like blood. She said nothing. She only placed her hand on his chest and whispered words in a language no one understood. The platform rose into the sky. Light swallowed them both. The people of Earth were left wondering. Was it truly peace? Or had they just given up one man to delay their doom? But one thing was certain. For the first time since the war began, the red sky turned blue again. Asterisk, the transport vessel moved silently through the upper atmosphere. No flame, no noise. Just a blue shimmer trailing behind as it carried Callan Ward to the alien capital ship above Earth. Inside, the air was colder than he expected. Clean, thin. Everything around him felt alive, like the walls could breathe. 2 alien guards walked behind him, their armor humming with faint light. They had no faces, just polished helms shaped like fangs in silence. Callan didn't speak. He knew they wouldn't answer. He kept his hands at his sides and eyes forward. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Every door pulsed with symbols that changed color as he passed. His heartbeat echoed in his ears, but he walked without pause. This wasn't courage. It was surrender with purpose. When the doors opened, light spilled into the hallway. The chamber beyond was massive. A throne of floating crystal sat at the center, surrounded by rising stairways and golden symbols carved into silver stone. She sat upon it like a goddess of war. The alien queen rose as he entered. Her crown shimmered above her like a constellation. Her armor had changed. Still red, but now etched with flowing silver veins. Her long white hair fell neatly over her shoulders, untouched by wind or gravity. "You came alone," she said, her voice calm as water. "I didn't think a wedding needed an army." Callan answered quietly. She stared at him. Not like a stranger, like a puzzle she'd already solved. She stepped down the stairs and stopped just a breath away. "Your people are loud with their fear, but you are quiet." "Why?" "Because I've already accepted it," Callan said. "If this is what peace needs, then I'll play my part." She blinked once. "That is not weakness. That is clarity." Then she reached out and touched his chest with 2 fingers. A circle of light appeared beneath them. The entire floor glowed. Alien runes danced in the air above their heads. Her soldiers appeared on balconies and platforms, standing motionless as statues. A voice echoed through the chamber, not hers, not his. It was the ship itself. "By the right of Janla, witness." The bonding of breath to blade, blood to throne, soul to star. Callan's legs felt weak, but he stood firm. She placed something cold and metallic around his neck. A collar with a single glowing gem. It did not lock. It pulsed gently, like a second heartbeat. "With this," she said, "you are mine. Husband not by love, but by peace. You carry Earth's burden now. Speak your vow." Callan looked up at her. "I vow to stand by your side, not because I want power, but because I want no more death. I offer no sword, just my word." The ship responded again. Bond complete. War protocols disengaged. Occupation. Forces on standby, just like that. Earth's war had ended. Or so they thought. The Queen dismissed the audience with a wave. Her soldiers left without sound. Callan remained standing, unsure what came next. She didn't look at him again until the chamber was empty. Then she finally exhaled. "You are not what I expected," she said. "I get that a lot," he replied. "Most men would have begged for safety. Or cursed me. You simply agreed. Why?" "Because it was the only path left," Callan said. "You didn't want blood. But you were ready to take it. I saw it in your eyes. I just gave you another option." She nodded slowly. "You gave me choice. In return, I give you something few humans have ever seen." She walked toward the edge of the chamber. A wall opened like liquid glass, revealing space beyond. Dozens of ships floated above Earth, like stars with engines. But something else came into view, another planet. Dark, cracked, dead. Callan recognized it from the satellite archives. It was Mars. "That was your future," she said. "A burnt shell. If I hadn't come, your world would have collapsed within a century. I did not start this war for glory. I started it because time was running out." Callan looked down at Earth. "Then what do you want from me now?" She turned to face him. "I want you to understand me. I want you to learn our ways. I want you to be more than a symbol. I want you to become something your people can believe in. Not just a man, a bridge." Callan nodded slowly. "Then teach me." For the first time her expression changed. A flicker of something softer crossed her face. Not warmth, but curiosity. Maybe trust. She extended her hand. Then walk with me, husband of Earth. He placed his hand in hers. And together, they left the chamber of war and stepped into something no one could yet name. The corridors of the alien flagship were unlike anything Callan had seen before. The walls glowed faintly, shifting color as they walked. Patterns moved like waves, and the floor responded to their footsteps with soft pulses of light. It was beautiful and unsettling at the same time. The Queen walked beside him in silence. Her steps made no sound. She moved like she didn't touch the ground. Her long white hair flowed gently behind her, and the gem in her crown glimmered with every breath. They entered a chamber that opened into a dome of glass. Beyond it was Earth, floating like a blue jewel in space. Stars glittered behind it. Around the ship, other vessels moved in coordinated paths, each one massive, each one silent. Callan stared out at his home and felt a strange pull in his chest. "You miss it," she said, not as a question but a statement. "It's home," he replied. "Is it still home if it has changed forever?" She asked. Callan didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the spinning clouds over the ocean. Maybe not. "But it's where everything I knew lived, my family, my friends. The people who didn't ask for this war." She stepped closer. "Your people are proud. But pride alone does not protect a planet. We offered unity. They offered missiles." He turned to face her. Maybe both sides were scared. Maybe that's what started it. But it doesn't matter now. You won. And I'm here, so what now? She gestured to a seat beside a long glowing table. Callan sat down. She remained standing. "Now you learn who I am. Not just what I am. Do you know my name?" He shook his head. "I am Virelia of House Soval. I was not born to rule. I earned the throne by blood trial. I defeated 7 champions and passed the rite of light. My people follow strength. I gave them peace through strength. But peace is fragile. That is why I chose you." Callan blinked. "You think I'm strong?" "I think you are willing," she said. "Willingness is rarer than strength. I've seen many who could crush a skull. Few who would speak instead." The room dimmed, and holograms rose from the table. They showed history, alien wars, empires falling, planets burning. Then came her rise, her army, her rule. Callan watched in silence. It was a lifetime in minutes when the lights returned. She sat beside him for the first time. "Now I will learn of you. Show me what makes a human who he is." He opened his hand, revealing a small folded photo. It showed him and a girl sitting on a dusty porch, laughing over 2 broken hoverbikes. "This was my sister. She fixed things. I just followed her lead." Virelia studied the image. "She looks fierce. Like someone who would curse the stars. If they got in her way." Callan smiled faintly. "She was. She died when one of your probes crashed through a refugee center. I don't blame you. But I can't forget it either. I would not ask you to," she said. "But I will carry that memory with you. That is part of our bond." Silence fell again, but this time it was softer. Not awkward. Just full. Later, she led him to a private chamber, spacious but empty, aside from a single low platform and symbols etched in the floor. "This will be your space. It is not a prison. You may move freely on this ship, even if I try to." "Escape?" he asked. "You won't," she answered. "Because there is nowhere safer than beside me." Callan didn't argue. He stepped into the room, sat on the platform, and looked around. No screens, no controls. Just peace and stars beyond the window. He let out a long breath. Virelia remained at the door. "Tomorrow you will speak to my council. They must accept the bond. Some will challenge it. Be ready to defend your place. Not with strength. With truth. Truth is all I have," he said. "Then it must be enough," she replied. And the door closed gently behind her. Alone now, Callan stared into space. The earth turned slowly. Somewhere down there, people were watching the skies. Waiting, wondering. He wondered too. Could one strange marriage hold back a future war? Or had they only paused something bigger? He lay back and let the silence of the stars fill him. He didn't feel afraid, just uncertain. But deep down, a strange warmth began to grow. Not love. Not yet, but maybe understanding. Outside his room, the ship continued its silent orbit. Inside, history was already changing, and Callan Ward was now its center. The next morning, Callan stood in front of a massive door shaped like a half moon. It opened with a deep, echoing chime. Inside, 12 figures sat in a ring. Each one wore a different shade of armor, glowing softly with symbols of their houses. These were the High Council of Soval, rulers of the alien systems, and now, judges of his fate. Varelia stood at the center of the ring. She did not wear her crown today, only her war armor, polished and dark. Her expression was unreadable. She motioned to Callan. "You will speak first. Tell them why you deserve the bond." Callan stepped forward. He didn't know ancient laws. He didn't know alien customs. But he knew people. He looked around the circle. Every set of eyes stared at him without kindness. He swallowed and began, "I'm not a warrior. I didn't win a trial or kill a beast to earn this place. I was chosen. Maybe that makes me weak in your eyes. But where I come from, sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is say yes to something terrifying." The council did not move. No one blinked. So he kept speaking. "I didn't ask for this bond. I didn't want war. But when your queen offered peace, I didn't run. I said yes. Not because I wanted to escape, but because I wanted to save my people." One of the council members stood. His voice was like thunder. "Words are cheap. You bleed no royal blood. You wear no mark of our kind. Why should we not tear this bond apart and return to conquest?" Callan looked directly at him, "Because peace already began. You just don't want to admit it. I stood beside your queen. I took the vow. Your army stood down. And for the first time in days no one died. Isn't that proof enough?" Another voice joined in. This one was sharper. "You are temporary. She will grow bored of you. Your world will rot while you play house. How do we know you won't betray her?" Callan didn't flinch. "Because I lost my sister in this war. And I won't let her death be for nothing. I won't break what might be the only thing that keeps Earth from burning." The room was silent again. Then Varelia stepped forward. "You question him because he is different, but you forget. He is not here because of what he is. He is here because of what I chose. And my choice is law." She raised her arm. A glowing sphere appeared in her palm. "This is the vow seal. If he lies, it burns. If he betrays, it shatters. If he is true, it remains whole." She turned to Callan. "Place your hand upon it. Speak your truth. Let the seal decide your worth." Callan stepped forward and touched the orb. It was warm. He closed his eyes and said, "I do not want power. I do not want control. I want peace. I want life. And I want a future where my people no longer fear your ships in the sky." The orb glowed blue, then white, then faded into nothingness. "Whole, unbroken," the council murmured. One by one, they nodded, not with joy, but with acceptance. The loudest member of the council stood again. "Then let it be known. The bond stands. The war remains ended. But the watch begins. Should he fail, the skies will open again, and this time there will be no mercy." Varelia nodded once. Spoken and sealed. Later, in a quieter hall, Callan walked beside her. "So that's your council. They love you, but they fear you too." "They fear the past," she replied. "They remember when peace cost too much. They do not want to lose their strength. But they will follow. Because they must. Do you ever get tired of proving yourself? He asked. She paused. Every day. But power does not rest. If I pause, it breaks, so I do not pause, Callan nodded. Then maybe I'm here to remind you it's okay to breathe sometimes. She looked at him. For a moment, her face softened again. You are not what I expected, human. But perhaps, neither am I. That night, Virelia stood at the edge of the viewing deck. The stars shimmered beyond the glass. Callan joined her in silence. They didn't speak. But something had changed between them. Not love, not yet. But the beginning of something stronger than war, trust. And that was the first real victory. The silence of peace was thin, fragile. Even on a ship filled with warriors, Callan felt the weight of tension growing. It wasn't just the stares from the guards or the way council members kept their distance. It was something deeper. Something moving beneath the surface. He noticed it first in the training halls. Soldiers now trained longer, harder. Their weapons gleamed sharper, their movements more aggressive. The routines weren't just about readiness. They were preparing for something else. Whispers spread through the ship. Not loud, just quiet enough to feel like secrets. Callan tried not to listen, but every hall echoed with doubt. Some said the queen had grown weak. Others feared her heart had been poisoned by the human. Virelia kept her face calm in public. But Callan could tell she was restless. Her voice was tighter, her gaze longer. She stood for hours at the viewing deck, silent, unmoving, watching Earth spin beneath them like a fragile marble. One night, he found her in the central chamber, standing alone before a burning symbol on the floor. It flickered red and gold, casting long shadows across the stone walls. She turned when he entered, but said nothing. You haven't spoken to me in 2 days, he said. There are things I must carry alone, she replied. No one rules alone. Not forever, he said. She looked at him. Her silver eyes held storm. Clouds now. There's talk of betrayal within the council. Some believe peace makes us weak. They think I should return to conquest. And some of them are willing to act on it. Callan stepped closer. You think there's going to be a coup? I think there's already one moving, she said. He clenched his fists. Then why aren't you stopping it? Because I cannot accuse without proof. And I will not start another war on suspicion, she said. But if they kill you, peace ends anyway, he said. She turned to him fully. That is why you must stay close to me. If anything happens, you carry the vow. You speak for Earth. You hold the line until another voice rises. Callan's heart pounded. I didn't sign up to be your backup plan. No, she said. You signed up to stop a war. This is part of it. That night, their chambers were sealed tighter. Guards stood at every door. But Callan didn't sleep. He couldn't. His thoughts raced like wildfire. He wasn't a spy. He wasn't trained for this. But maybe that's why they wouldn't see him coming. The next day, he slipped away from the guards during a scheduled meeting. He moved through the lower decks of the ship where maintenance tunnels ran like veins through the ship's spine. No one looked for him here. No one knew the ship like he did now. He listened. He watched, and he waited. For hours he followed. Officers tracked movement and logged every unusual meeting. Then, in a forgotten corridor near the reactor chamber, he heard something strange. 2 soldiers speaking in a language not native to Soval. It was coded, sharp, but he picked up a name, Virelia. Then another word followed, elimination. He didn't wait. He ran. No time to confront. No time to act clever. He burst into the command hall where the queen stood in council with her advisors. Guards moved to stop him, but she raised her hand. Speak, she commanded. There's a plan to kill you, Callan said. I heard it myself near the reactor levels. The soldiers weren't yours. They wore your armor, but they spoke in code. They're not loyal. They're waiting for the signal. Gasps moved through the chamber. Council members looked to one another, some with fear, some with guilt. Virelia stepped down from her platform. "Bring me Commander Thirax, now." The guards moved quickly. But the chamber's mood had changed. The queen had been warned not by a soldier, not by a spy, but by her human bondmate. That changed everything. Later, in her private chambers, she stood before Callan. The door was locked, the lights were low. "You should not have risked yourself," she said. "I had to. I saw it happening. If I waited, you'd be dead. And everything we built would fall," he said. She stepped closer. "You acted like a king, not a servant." "I acted like your partner," he replied. She stared at him in silence. Then, without warning, she bowed her head slightly. Not in weakness, but in acknowledgement. That night, Virelia placed her blade in Callan's hands. "This is not for battle. It is for presence. From now on, when you walk beside me, no one will forget who you are." Callan held the blade. It felt heavier then. It looked, but not from weight, from meaning, and so the human who once worked with wires now walked with steel beside a queen. Asterisk, the next dawn did not come with peace. The queen's orders had spread through the fleet. Every deck was searched. Every rank was questioned. Commander Thirax was nowhere to be found. He had vanished, leaving only silent followers behind. Callan stood beside Virelia in the main hall, her blade still hanging from his hip. He wasn't used to carrying a weapon. But the eyes of the soldiers had changed since that day. They no longer saw him as a guest. Now they looked at him like a piece of the throne. "You've changed their minds," she said, her voice low as they walked through the observation hall. "No, they changed because you let them see me," Callan replied. She turned to him. "You keep saying you are not special, but you forget most rulers would never allow a stranger to walk this far beside them. I chose you, but you made them accept it." He didn't answer. Something in his chest felt heavy. Not fear, not pressure, just the weight of being seen. Suddenly, a soldier approached. Her armor bore the silver crest of the watchguard. She knelt before the queen and spoke quickly. "We've tracked Thirax. He escaped to the surface of Earth. He's not alone. Rebels from within your own fleet followed him. They've taken a hidden stronghold in the southern mountains." Callan stepped forward. "He went to Earth? Why?" Virelia narrowed her eyes. "He wants to break the bond by forcing Earth into chaos again. If the humans strike him, it will look like betrayal. If I strike, it becomes invasion. Either way, the peace burns." "Then what do we do?" Callan asked. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke. "We go together. Not with an army, with proof, with unity. If we walk into that place side by side, no one can claim trickery. They will see us as one." Callan blinked. "You're going to land with me, no protection?" "You are my protection," she said. Hours later, their ship descended into the snowy mountains of southern Asia. No cities remained here, only ruins. Thirax had chosen his hiding place well. The human world wouldn't find them. And neither would satellites. The wind howled as the queen and Callan stepped onto cracked stone. The hidden base revealed itself slowly. A curved hatch opened from under the ice. 2 rebel soldiers approached, weapons raised. But they did not fire. They stared at the queen, then at Callan. And they stepped aside. Inside the stronghold, the air was dry and heavy. Power cables buzzed overhead. Dozens of soldiers stood watching as Virelia entered. Thirax stood at the far end of the hall. His armor was scorched, his blade at his side. He stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Callan. "This is your weakness," he growled. "A human boy with a crown he did not earn. You turned a warship into a wedding stage. You made us kneel for peace. I will not kneel." Virelia didn't draw her weapon. She stepped beside Callan. "Then stand and listen. You speak of honor, but you brought dishonor by hiding in shadows. You claim strength, but strength faces the enemy head-on. You are a coward dressed in iron, Thirax snarled. You've already lost. Your people follow you only because you are feared. The moment you fall, they will remember their purpose. War, glory, fire. Callan stepped forward now. He didn't shout. He didn't raise the blade. You don't understand something, Thirax. She chose peace, not because she couldn't win, but because winning everything and losing your soul is not a victory. Thirax drew his blade. Then defend her, human. Let us see what kind of king you really are. Callan didn't move. Instead, he removed the blade from his belt and threw it to the floor between them. You want war so badly? Strike me. Kill me. Let the galaxy watch you murder the one thing standing between peace and fire. Show them the truth. The room froze. Even the wind outside stopped howling. Thirax raised his blade. His hands shook, but he didn't strike. He looked around. Eyes met his from the shadows, soldiers, witnesses. No one moved. And in that silence, Thirax lowered his blade. Not in surrender, in defeat. He turned and dropped it at Varelia's feet. Then he knelt. I was wrong, he said. You are not weak. You are terrifying. Because you changed the future without blood. Varelia stepped forward and placed her hand on his shoulder. Then rise. And serve that future. Outside the wind picked up again. But now it carried something new. Not fear, not hate. But silence. Filled with purpose. As Callan and the Queen returned to their ship, the rebels behind them bowed. One by one, a new army began to form, not built for war, but to guard what had finally been earned, peace. The return to the flagship was not met with celebration. It was quiet, focused. Word of Thirax's surrender had already reached the outer fleets. Some ships had sent messages of loyalty. Others remained silent. Silence in a warrior culture was not peace. It was the pause before a choice. Varelia walked through the central command deck with Callan beside her. She wore her full armor again, polished with a new mark on her shoulder, a white circle wrapped in gold. It was a symbol from Earth, unity through trust. Callan had not taken off the blade since returning. It was no longer a gift. It was a promise. The ship's crew no longer looked past him. They nodded when he passed. Some even bowed slightly. Not out of fear, but recognition. The Queen gathered her inner circle in the starlight chamber. A place meant for strategy and law. The ceiling was a dome of moving stars. A live map of the galaxy above them. Around the ring stood the fleet commanders. Not all were loyal. Not yet. She stood at the center. Callan stood beside her. This time, she did not introduce him. She did not need to. They all knew his name now. We stand at a line, Varelia said. One path returns us to what we were. Fire, rule, the chain of conquest. The other path is new, unwritten, dangerous, but full of hope. I have chosen it. And I ask you to walk it with me. One commander spoke. You ended a war by wedding a foreign voice. That voice now speaks for us. If he fails, we fall. Varelia nodded. Then you must help him not to fail. Callan stepped forward. I am not a soldier. I can't promise to be perfect. But I know what it's like to grow up afraid of shadows in the sky. I know what it's like to lose someone because pride got louder than reason. I don't want to be your ruler. I want to be your bridge. Another commander folded her arms. What does peace look like when we've never seen it before? Callan didn't hesitate. It looks like every child going to sleep without counting how far the warships are. It looks like voices raised in music instead of sirens. It looks like your people and mine building something together that no blade could ever take apart. Silence held the room again. But it was softer, thinking, shifting. The Queen stepped beside him and placed her hand on his shoulder. He speaks not with fear, but but with faith. You've seen what that did to Thirax. Now I ask you, not for obedience, but for choice, stay or leave. But do it with truth. One by one, the commanders stepped forward. Not all spoke, some only nodded. But every one of them placed their hand over their chest in the old vow of service. The chamber grew brighter with every voice added, when the Thayawundu. Last one bowed. Varelia let out a breath Callan hadn't known she was holding. He smiled faintly. You really were willing to lose it all for this? She looked at him. I was willing to lose everything but you. That night, they stood together in the sacred Hall of Stars, the place where her ancestors had taken their final vows, but she had written a new one with no crowd, no council, just her and Callan. I took you first for peace, she said, but I keep you now not because I must, but because I want to. Callan reached out. Then let this be a new kind of bond, not just between us, but between worlds. Their hands joined. A golden light rose around them. The ship responded, not with sound, but with light and stillness, as if even the stars paused to witness it. At that same moment, a message left the flagship, not a threat, not a warning, but an invitation, broadcast across neutral space and toward Earth's orbit. It read only 2 words, together now. On Earth, people gathered in streets. They looked up not with fear, but with awe. The red glow was gone. The silence had become calm. For the first time since the sky had burned, the world breathed again, and in the dark above, a queen and a human stood not as conqueror and subject, but as one. The vow was not sealed in blood, but in trust, and trust was far more dangerous. The weeks that followed were not quiet. Peace had come, but peace is never still. On both sides, Earth and Sova leaders scrambled to adjust. Old treaties were rewritten, new languages were learned. Borders once drawn in blood now open to science, culture, and trade. Callan spent his days in both worlds. One day in orbit, beside Varelia during military briefings. The next on Earth, helping human diplomats understand alien law. His voice, once unknown, now echoed in chambers across 2 species. Not everyone agreed with the peace. There were protests. Some humans saw him as a traitor. Some aliens still believed a human bond was weakness. But neither side dared break the silence again. Because now the silence had a face. And that face was his, one evening, as the twin moons of Soval shimmered through the palace windows. Callan stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. Below him, markets buzzed with voices from different worlds. Earth merchants selling fruit beside alien armor smiths. Children laughing in mixed tongues, soldiers walking without rifles. The impossible had become real. Varelia joined him. She wore no crown now, no armor. Just a deep blue robe lined with silver thread. Her white hair was braided over one shoulder. She said nothing at first. She simply stood beside him and looked out. Have you noticed, she said, that no one guards us anymore? I did, he replied. You finally feel safe? No, she said. But I feel trusted. And that is rarer. They stood in silence a moment longer. Then a voice came through the comm panel behind them, urgent, sharp. Your Majesties, a signal has arrived from the Veladari sector. It's not one of ours. And it's not from Earth. They exchanged a glance. Varelia tapped the wall, opening a screen. A spinning glyph hovered in the air. It wasn't Soval script. It wasn't Terran code. It was older. Forgotten by most. A warning beacon, she said. What does it say? Callan asked. She translated slowly. They are coming. They see your union, and they fear it. They are ancient, and they do not share peace. Callan leaned forward. Who sent it? No one, she said. Or someone who knew they would die after sending it. Varelia straightened. Call the council. Notify Earth Command. Prepare the outer fleet, but keep the skies open. We do not show teeth unless they bare theirs first. That night, in the Starlight Hall, Callan stood before a new map. It glowed brighter now. More systems lit in green. Others blinked in orange. The galaxy was watching. And peace was not enough. It had to be guarded. Virelia turned to him. You still have time to walk away. If you do, no one will blame you. This threat is not yours to carry. He stepped forward. It became mine the moment I stood with you. And if they fear our union, then it means we're doing something right. She smiled, not cold, not royal, but warm. Then let them come. Let them see what peace looks like when it fights back. Earth launched a new station the next week. Built by human engineers and Soval architects, it floated between the two worlds. A bridge of steel and light. Its name was written in both tongues, the Unity Gate. At its heart stood a statue of two figures side by side. One in armor, one in cloth, hands joined, eyes forward. A blade not raised, but planted into the ground. A symbol not of conquest, but of defense. Children visited the statue with their schools. They pointed at the human figure and asked, "Is that really Callan Ward?" Their teachers nodded. Yes, the man who married peace, but Callan never stood still. He traveled often, some days beside Virelia, some days alone. Always listening, always watching, always making sure the silence between worlds remained full of hope, not fear. And Virelia ruled with a quieter fire now. Not softer, just wiser. She no longer had to prove her strength. She had already proven her restraint. On the anniversary of the bond, a gathering took place. Not a wedding, not a coronation, but something new. A gathering of voices, alien, human, unified. They spoke not of old wounds, but of shared futures. At the end of the ceremony, Virelia stood before them all and said, "Peace was not given. It was chosen, and we will choose it again. Even when it is hard, even when it hurts. Because we now know the cost of silence and the value of a voice." Callan stepped beside her. "And if war returns, it will not find us asleep. It will find us together." The crowd rose in applause. The stars outside shimmered brighter than ever. And across the galaxy, where fear once lived, a new kind of power began to grow, not through fire, but through unity.